Howdy folks, Hellcorrex here. Welcome to episode 10 from Thoughts from the Inner Sphere. And today we're going to bring you the Battlemaster 85-ton assault mech. What can't you not love about this thing? I just love these things. Always wanted to play with a Battlemaster. It was like iconic assault mech that you always seen in the very first Mech Warrior game way back in the early 90s, like 93, I think 92, 93. And you had the GE network where you could log on, play, and you got to play the Battlemaster, and it's just one of those mechs that it was just iconic, and you just love this thing. All right, now let's quit gushing all over this thing. Now the Battlemaster, 85 tons assault, and well, it's a 4.6 mover, doesn't have jump jets. Has 18 heat sinks, what's not to love? 232 points of armor, 14.5 tons. Now, it carries one long range weapon, the PPC. It has 6 medium lasers, 4 to the front, 2 to the rear, 2 machine guns, an SRM-6 with 2 tons of ammo. Now, the whole role of the Battlemaster is to go out there and assault. It with the weapon systems that it has on it, it is in your face. It gets up there, plinks away basically with that PPC. Then when it gets into close, it's going to be doing the Lord's work with the machine guns, which are good against the infantry if you have to worry about infantry targets. Those 4 medium lasers going to do some good damage there, about 20 points if you hit with everything. And then SRM-6, which can do up to 12. So all those holes that might have a mech that has its armor kind of stripped off, this is a good mech that causes criticals. All right, and that is the whole thing. I look at the Battlemaster. It's not the very first mech you want to fire in the rotation. Let's say you have a lance of a good example here is in the picture you had a Warhammer, a Thunderbolt, and a Hunchback. All right. First thing in that whole group I'd be firing is that Hunchback. I'd fire that thing, try to hit with that AC-20, do 20 points damage, blow a nice little chunk out of somebody's armor someplace. Then I'd follow up with the Warhammer with his 2 PPCs and do a little bit of damage, hopefully, and then miss a medium laser, depending how close you are. All right. Then I'd follow up with that Thunderbolt. And then last but not least, hopefully leading the way, you got that Battlemaster, and it's going to go in there and just start ripping little holes here and there. So if there's a chink in somebody's armor that's opened up, you're going to hopefully pour the fire into that hole and then cause as many crits as possible. And if you have somebody has some ammo exposed, like a SRM or LRMs, hopefully you hit the ammo and kaboom, bluey, gone. Make a nice little crater in the ground and move on. Dish up the next target. Now, the Battlemaster being a mech that's only a 4.6 mover, doesn't have jump jets, so if it gets into a city fight, it's going to have to go, it gets channeled fairly easily. It has to go down this street, and its range of movement with the 4.6 isn't bad. It's just your typical 4.6 moving. So if it runs, it can get to one place to another. But if you're in a city without jump jets, you're going to have a little bit of problem going from one street to the next. Instead of jumping over a short building, you can have to go down to the street, turn the corner. All right, you see what I'm saying. Now, on open terrain, like you see here in the picture, where you're facing anything that could be woods, use as much cover as possible as you plink away with that PPC. You only have one long-range weapon. It's 10 points, all right? It's one of the things that if you hit or miss, just like if you have a long-range LRM, all right? And in all the games I've ever played, that is the whole purpose, is just using that PPC, doing some damage as you get in close. You know, like I said, this is a knife fighter mech. It likes to be up close and personal because it has all those medium lasers. It's got that SRM. It's got the machine guns. All right. So you want to mitigate the amount of damage this thing can take, and using any type of terrain you have, like go from woods, put enough woods in between you and the target till you get close, or you're in the woods and you run, so you have some decent modifiers, so they it's like, oh, maybe I'll check a bit different target. But it has the armor on it to be able to stand up a little bit and take some punches while it gets in there and starts tanking for you. All right. Now, once it gets in there and starts tanking, it becomes the focus of everybody wants to kill that thing. All right. That's where you're going to have the problems with. It's going to be focus fired, and then you're going to have your supporting mechs doing the damage, ripping off, so it can get in there and start doing the Lord's work and just smashing things. Then when you get in close, either you punch or you kick. I prefer kicking, but if you have that extra arm, because the left arm doesn't have but the machine guns in it, or you got the one with the PPC, and it has the hand. So if you get into a game where you have to carry something, you know, I've been in games where you're running back and forth, and you got to find a objective, like haul something. You have hands, you can pick something up with it and carry around, which is a very big plus in Battletech if you're doing certain missions. Now, let's just look at some variants here. Now, one of the variants, oh, I forgot to mention how I'd use this thing. When you get in close, I don't use that PPC anymore. All right. I just use the 4 medium lasers. So there's 12 heat. You got the SRM that is 16. And then if you run, most you're going to do is 18. I never, ever fire that PPC unless I have a target that's a little bit close. It's like, okay, all right, the PPC's in short range, but the medium lasers at maybe medium range. I might fire the PPC still and then fire 3 of the medium lasers. All right, that way. All right, that's how I'd use it in the fire. But when I get in close and I got those short range medium lasers and SRM, and I'm not worrying about that PPC anymore, so I'm not going to worry about any heat with this thing. All right. Now, there's one variant, which is the Steiner variant. Don't really care much for this variant. Basically, you drop the PPC in favor of an LRM. You dump the SRM pack for some SRM2s. Get rid of the machine guns for some SRM2s. Then it just becomes a missile boat, and to me, it's not one of those things that really does the job. I don't really care for the Steiner, the 1S version, and that's pretty much what they have for the variant in the 3025. Now, what would I do with this thing? Typically, I like to dump the machine guns for 2 tons. All right, I'll dump those 2 machine guns and the ammo and put more armor so it tanks a little bit better. That's 32 more points of armor. And then I'll dump 1 ton of, because it carries 2 tons of ammo for that SRM. There's a lot of times I will dump the 1 ton of ammo and put another medium laser. So I have 5 medium lasers facing forward to the rear, and then have that SRM6 for 15 turns. Usually 15 turns of firing that thing, that's more than enough. Okay. So that's basically what I would do for my own personal variant on the Battlemaster. Other than that, I just usually in every campaign I ever played over the years, I've always had one. This makes a great command mech, And I usually put like a commander in it, so he, along with command and control. And then later on, when we get into the 3050, when you get the C3 systems, I like putting a C3 command module in it, and then use it as a hook up an entire C3 system. But that's for a later date. All right. Hopefully this answered a few questions you might have on the Battlemaster, and we'll talk with you later. We'll see you in episode 11.